this video, we're going to see how we can move from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. So essentially, all you need to do is to convert the essential things or get accustomed to the new systems, which are Lumen and Nanite and all these new technologies. Now, you can use any project that you have in a previous version, like Unreal Engine 4, and you can use it in Unreal Engine 5, but you need to do some conversions. And also you can use like other models, whatever models you want, and we will see how we can go through some really interesting aspects that, let's say, are not so necessary anymore, but it's still good to know what we are talking about. So this scene here was available in Unreal Engine 4 in the marketplace, and it's called ArcViz Interior. So you can essentially just open it with the Unreal Engine 5, and you can say, okay, convert this into Unreal Engine 5. Now we're gonna go to see how every single object is affected with the new system. So let's say that I want to know more about this table here, so I'm gonna select it and double click. And the most important things that we need to check if we want to use or not is if you want to use Nanite. So we want to rebuild this with a new geometry, and we also saw this in the previous video. So if I type here Nanite, you can see here this is not yet converted into Nanite, so I can do this, or I can use the old LOD system, so level of details. Then I can check the collision. I can use the collisions that I have here. So let's see here if this one has some collisions. So I'm gonna go to show and see, there you go. So it has some collisions, but sometimes it happens that it doesn't have any collision at all. So you need to create these just as we did in the previous version of Unreal Engine with a particular technique that I'm gonna show you. Otherwise, we saw that we can create collisions inside, and we're also gonna expand on that. Now we can use simple collisions like this green box right here, or we can use complex collisions when we have more complex geometry. Now this geometry here is not too complex, so the complex collision is not too complex as well. We can use it, but sometimes they tend to get really complex, so it's better not to use complex geometry for the collisions. And then another important thing are the UV channels. So the first channel here, which it's called channel 0, this is for the material. So this is like telling the material how to apply on the object. So every face of the object has a space here on this UV map. Now the other one here is for the light maps, and you can see these look all the same, no, except the second one here. So you can use different maps or UV maps to guide the material and the light. And this was paramount in previous version, but right now we don't need this, as we said also before, because we have another system which is called Lumen, and Lumen doesn't need light maps apparently, so you don't need to work this out anymore. But again, sometimes this new technology don't work, and so it's better to know how to fix these issues that we could find. And so let's get started, and I'm just gonna show you real quick here what we said so far, just to recap also from topics from previous lessons. So what we need to check are smoothing groups. So this means where the mesh is smooth and where the mesh is not smooth. We need to be able to control this, to manage this perfectly when we import scenes or single assets. Then we have collisions, important to define if we can pass through the model or if our character, for example, will be blocked and it cannot pass through. And then we have the UV maps. Again, these are made for materials usually, but it can also be set up for light maps. Then we have, well, this is an example of UV map, which is called unwrap map. So when we unwrap the 3D object and create a 2D image, basically. So this process is called unwrapping or unpacking or setting the light maps. And there you go. This is some example also with light maps. And again, we shouldn't need these anymore because we have Lumen, but sometimes it could be helpful. So level of details. When we use Nanite, we recreate the geometry using Nanite. So we won't need level of details anymore, but we're also going to see how we can manage this and how we can generate level of details. There we go. This is LOD, so level of details, against Nanite. So in Nanite system, everything is handled by the engine, so we don't need to take care of that anymore. But again, this is a lesson, like a bridge from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. So first of all, you can open any scene that you have, like older scene. You can open up an old project, an old scene, or you can go in a marketplace. You will find many projects here that are not ready for Unreal Engine 5, so you need to open them up and just update them. But then sometimes you need to go inside and fix things, just as we saw. So if you open up, like in my case, this ArcViz, or let's say something else here, which was from previous, this one here was from a previous version. So you just say create project, and you can see here you don't have the Unreal Engine 5, so you're just gonna create it with just say create, and that's gonna create it, but then you need to convert it, and this usually is done automatically by the system, so you don't need to do any more than open up the scene. And when it's opened up, let me just show you here, we need to go and set up everything. Now we already saw the Nanite conversion tool, which is in tools, and in the Nanite tools. So this is gonna like run a scanning of the scene here. So we found a lot of non-Nanite meshes, so we need to convert this. So I'm just gonna click on enable Nanite, and part of the job is done. And then we need to just investigate if we need to fix more things, but you can see here that I'm perfectly using this scene in Unreal Engine 4, and I'm using in Unreal Engine 5. Now, another tool you can use if you want to migrate from a Unreal Engine 4 project to an Unreal Engine 5 project is to use the Migrate tool. So if I go here and I'm just gonna filter, and I want to just see the levels. So if I want, for example, to migrate this one here, right click and just say asset actions and migrate. You can see here you can export externally or you can migrate, and this is gonna take everything from this level and it's gonna just migrate. So you need to save first these things, and once you're finished to save, it's gonna ask you where you want to migrate. You can bring them into an Unreal Engine 5 project. So I did this operation with using an old project from another lesson, and I migrate that into Unreal Engine 5 third person scene. So the third person scene that you find in the templates, basically. I'm gonna use this one here in this video. So I'm gonna double click on that. So you can see this is the third person template that we find in the game section when you open up the launcher. And this was the scene that I previously used for another video. And right now I want to use Blender as an example, but also I want to show you quickly how you can manage, for example, the smoothie groups in Sketchup. So this object here is from Blender,